So, today I'm going to talk about a little bit about the movie The Privileg. It is a German horror movie, so the original title is Das Privileg. I hope my German knowledge is just enough to pronounce that correctly. The film, I thought it was kind of like a little bit discombobulated, a little bit chaotic, everything through one another with multiple things sort of connecting. And so I'm going to kind of do this review video a little bit more unstructured because that kind of conveys the same kind of chaos as I felt watching this movie. Perhaps there's more sense to be made of this movie than I thought there is, but that is left as an exercise to the viewer, in this case, y'all over there. So, the main character of this movie is Finn Bergman, who, when he's a young child, sees his older sister Anna kidnap him and then throw herself off a dam and kill herself. There is some implication that she has seen something that has caused her to do this, but it's left vague at that time. Finn is obviously traumatized by this, and he receives therapy for the rest of his life as we jump forward to Finn being a teenager, when we are also introduced to his twin sister, which is just kind of like basically like briefly mentioned early on. He is shown having like a lot of trouble adjusting because of the trauma that he has, because of some weird goings on, some mental issues that he's having that his sister is not having, or she's having some issues as well, but like something different, it seems, at least at first. He ends up going to like a party together with his queer lady friend Lena, and there they get like a bunch of drugs from some other guy, and he starts tripping, and he starts to see more strange events. And this kind of like ends up building to a moment where he, at his own house, sees his parents conduct like some kind of like weird ritual meeting surrounding his sister, who looks like she's in a stupor, while she's naked in front of a naked old woman. And right as Finn is like stalking around outside in the garden, standing in like bright lights, clear view of the people inside who don't seem to notice him. He sees some more visions and he like loses consciousness, and when he comes to, he's at the doctor's, and the parents tell him, oh, whatever you saw, that must have just been an hallucination. And at this point I was thinking to myself, okay, is this a thing of Finn actually seeing these things? Is he actually hallucinating? Are we seeing everything through his eyes correctly, or are we seeing everything through his eyes the way that he thinks things are, but they aren't that way? Or is it perhaps that, yeah, he is seeing things and everybody else around him is just gaslighting him into thinking, no, what are you talking about? Whatever you are talking about is not real. And the way that things keep going like this, it kind of like reinforced that notion for me, where I started to imagine a more interesting horror movie where perhaps everybody else was either gaslighting the main character into thinking that something was there or something that wasn't there, while he's trying to uncover the truth, which is not all incorrect with what the movie actually is. or that we are initially following kind of the antagonist of the film, or rather the villain of the film, a villain protagonist, where Finn is being kind of creepy towards his family, especially towards his sister, because he's acting very overprotective of her and like breaks into her room, sneaks in there with like a baseball bat, walks into her, walks in on her undressing, and all that sort of thing. Like, from her perspective, he is being very weird and very creepy. Like, that is one valid way to look at this. But as things go on, it becomes clear that no, this is all very clearly happening, and the parents are either in on it or they're just completely oblivious for some reason of what is going on. Now, and after that, things are starting to kind of like unravel, unpack in like a bit of a weird way, because there's multiple things going on that seem to kind of like be potential source of horror, some of which may have been added in there as sort of like red herrings, or they may be a weird link in this whole web of interlocking things that I think kind of made the movie less coherent on the whole. It tried to be more interesting, tried to be a little bit more complex, but I don't think it stuck everything together so well. Because there's one thing of the parents being kind of like part of a health cult. They are part of a group of parents who adopted all of their children, like Finn and his twin sister discover that they are adopted, that several of their friends are all adopted by their parents as well, for some purpose. With these very health-obsessed parents, and one of them even like talks about like, oh, we are the elite. You are privileged to be a part of this, which, you know, that's why I also kind of like figured I'd dress up like this a little bit. Then there's the part of like they run in pharmaceutical company and they have these pills with mushrooms in them that at the start of the movie there's like a class that Finn has where the biology teacher talks about these psychotropic mushrooms that turn ants into zombies. Similar premise to the video game The Last of Us, if I recall correctly. But in this case, there are no zombies involved. Instead, there is some kind of like mind control thing going on with these mushrooms. Like they bury their roots in like the roof of the mouth of people who eat them and kind of like control some of their actions. But it is not the core thing. It's sort of like on the side. It's weird. At first, it's kind of like seems like the mushrooms are the things that are causing the hallucinations, but no. It turns out later the hallucinations aren't hallucinations; they are real things. There are some kind of demonic entities going on, and these demonic entities are possessing all of their parents, and their parents are like grooming their adopted children to become the future hosts of their previous parents, who are also all possessed by various demonic entities. And separately, those things are like all cool and interesting and like could have build up like some very big coherent plot, but altogether it kind of like turns into like a weird kind of soup of a plot. I was watching this with two of my friends, and we were just kind of like confused, like what part of this here is going on, what is real and everything. And that made for like an interesting watching experience, but I don't think I would have enjoyed it as much if I watched it on my own. And then like halfway through the movie, Finn, his lesbian or probably just bisexual best friend Lena, and the girl that Finn is crushing on, Samira, who Lena is apparently also maybe crushing on, and it's sort of mutual. It's kind of like spread throughout the film a little bit. Halfway through, they are all having kind of like a demonic experience during an exorcism that Finn hired some people for. And when they then like run away from the house, they end up in, like, I'm not sure if I remember correctly if it was like an abandoned warehouse or like a swimming pool of some sort that was just left abandoned. They just find like a building where they just camp out over at night with like sleeping bags with the three of them, and they end up having a bisexual threesome. And like that immediately drew our attention back to the movie. Suddenly we were kind of like invested again, but like more in the relationship that these characters were having rather than the horror of the movie. Which maybe was kind of like what the filmmakers thought too. Like, you know what, people are not going to be invested in the story that we're telling here. This is something that will get people invested. And I guess this bisexual mess made for a good place in this mess of a story. After that, things go a little bit faster. Things are going more in a bit of a direction, and then at the end we have the climax where Finn is about to be possessed and taken over by a demonic entity that comes out of one of the older people, and then Lena and Samira end up saving him and burning everybody else alive, or I guess unalive, because they're all possessed by demonic entities and probably the original people are dead. The house burns down. They kill the possessed twin sister, drive off. Lena's car goes off the dam. They manage to kind of like get out in time. They mourn the loss of their families and their innocence and the car, and then they walk off into the distance, and Samira turns to the camera and shows her possessed eyes. Kind of like there was like a bit of a sequel bait of like, hey, we gotta go fight these demonic entities now, and then bam, nope, they are probably just going to die because they have a possessed person with them. What the hell kind of experience was this? It was all very well acted overall. I have to say, it was a good movie in some senses. Like, everybody involved was clearly trying to do something good there. But the plot and some of the direction choices didn't make a lot of sense to me. Like, there's a part near the start where after Anna has fallen off the dam, we see young Finn, sitting in the back of an ambulance, blanket wrapped around him, all sorts of like police and ambulance personnel standing around, and his dad arrives, comes up to him, and he grabs a bloody knife that Finn had, that this sister Anna had used to like presumably carve the mushroom out of her mouth, still bloody, out of his hand. And I'm like, who Why did nobody else already take the knife away from the kid? That is like the first thing you do. What the hell? I have no idea what the people, the direction, and the writers in this movie were doing. Actors pretty good. Special effects were, yeah. I would probably not recommend this movie generally, but it's at least like an enjoyable watch if you just want to watch something to rag on with friends. I can recommend it for that. 10 out of 10 for that. Otherwise, 5 out of 10 probably. Das Privileg.